In addition to moderating the critiquing sessions, you're also an instructor in the more traditional sense. What's your approach to teaching writing?
I yell and yell, no. What I end up talking about is structure. And although I do a little tiny mini lecture at the beginning of each day, one of them will be on your first sentence and how to make it a good sentence. Another one will be on how to get your exposition hidden in the story so that it's not giant lumps of, as we all know, America has been divided into city-states that are run by gang members. I mean, how to hide your exposition so it doesn't look like exposition, that's what I do. Characterization, how to get just little bitty things about characterization, like how to describe a character by action and dialogue rather than by physical description. And then I stress plot mostly, because I would say that most of the people who come to Clarion and most of the people at professional workshops, they have a pretty good style. They actually have come at least part way to mastering dialogue and characterization. Many of them have brilliant ideas that I would kill to have these ideas. And a lot of them are quite good world builders, but none of them can plot for sour apples. So, but I think plotting is the hardest thing to teach, and it's impossible to talk about without a manuscript in front of you. You know, if you just say, well, there should be conflict, there should be a problem that has to be resolved, you're bringing order out of chaos, all those things, they really mean nothing. You have to look at a specific story and say what's wrong with it and how to build it up. But I think plotting is absolutely the most neglected skill in literature of the 20th century, and the one most badly needed to redeem us all.
So by the end of the week, are your students ready to redeem us all? Are their stories good enough to be published?
Many of the stories that are written at Clarion are not saleable. It is not for lack of good ideas. It is for lack of craft skills. It is not because they don't have great and wonderful ideas that can form the next generation of terrific writers. I get very excited. I mean, everybody wants to see, just like everybody loves to see babies and kids graduating from high school, you know, I like to see the next generation coming up. I want to see what they have that's going to be great to read.
My agents in control and I have been busily tracking down this next generation of terrific writers, you know, to find out what they thought of their Clarion experience. Well, this afternoon, one of the members of Control caught up with Nina Kiriki Hoffman at a convention and got her to read an excerpt from one of the stories that she wrote at Clarion. I just recorded the reading off an open channel. Let's take a look.
I reclined on Maxwell's couch, my hands behind my head, as he unbuttoned my shirt, unhooked my new enormous front hook bra, and opened both wide. He kissed my stomach. He feathered kisses up my body. Suddenly, my left breast flexed and punched him in the face. He was surprised. He looked at me suspiciously. I was surprised myself. I studied my left breast. It lay there gently bobbing like a Japanese glass float on a quiet sea. Innocent, waiting.
What sort of reaction, particularly at Clarion, did that story have?
I was really afraid to turn it in because it's a really weird story. And people had been making fun of other people at Clarion. The first 2 weeks, they'd have stories come in and then people would make jokes, and people were persecuted by jokes. And so I thought, if I turn this in, I'm going to be in big trouble. But that was the week Samuel Delaney was our teacher. And he said it had a lot of psychological verisimilitude, because it's like the character actually has some integrity, and she has a lot of, I mean, I like her myself. I mean, I feel for her. So people actually like that story. I write things a lot where I'm really afraid to send them out because I think they're either too horrible or too weird, and people are going to psychoanalyze me and they'll find out something about me that I don't want anyone to know. But that story has been very successful for me. It's been reprinted about 3 or 4 times, and when I do readings, people seem to like it.
Why has Clarion been so successful at turning out graduates who actually get published?
I think because there's an emphasis that it's okay to publish. I mean, I majored in writing and literature, and one professor once suggested I might want to try to get something published. That it's okay. It's okay to sell it. That is a noble pursuit. And it's also an opportunity to get away from the rest of the world and know that it's okay to be bizarre or strange, and work, produce. You know, at Clarion, you produce. It's you don't have to, but you just do. You're around all these other people who are producing, and it was magical. It was a great experience.
Jim, was there any advice that you got at Clarion that you felt you couldn't incorporate into the way you approach your fiction?
Well, there are a lot of things that writers there did that I don't do. Scott Card, for example, tells his stories to people. He goes over the stories over and over again, just telling people on the street. He told us a lot of things from Xenocide at Clarion. In fact, he showed us the first 60 pages or so of the original draft. And that's something I can't do. If I talk to someone about stuff I'm writing, it takes a lot of pressure off of what I want to do. I think it was Robert Frost who said that writing is the faucet on the second floor of the building, and talking is this fire hydrant on the front lawn. And if you open up the fire hydrant, you ain't never going to get no pressure from the faucet on the second floor. And that's certainly the way I feel about my writing, but clearly it works differently for Scott Card, and it works well for him. He said at Clarion that when he actually gets down to writing a novel, it's never taken him longer than a month, because he knows everything of what he wants to say, and he just says it.
I don't think there is any one way to write. I think there are multitudinous ways to write. And if writer A and writer B have methods that are totally different, and they're both working, I admire them both just very much. And I wouldn't ever tell anyone, this is the way to write a story. There is no one way to write a story. So I think they recognize in that attitude a certain amount of forbearance, and experimentation is okay, and trying this, try that, try my way, try Damon's, try Chris and Dean's and Harlan's, try them all. One of them probably will suit you. They like that. They need that. They need to know that.
The Harlan to whom Kate refers is, of course, Harlan Ellison. In the early 50s, Harlan was kicked out of Ohio State University. One reason for his dismissal was rudeness to a creative writing professor who told Harlan he had no talent. Harlan went on to become the highly acclaimed and prolific writer of short stories and novels, critical essays, newspaper columns, TV scripts, film screenplays, an editor of some of the best SF anthologies ever assembled, and even a creative writing professor at Clarion. Ah, revenge is sweet. What do you most want to inspire in your Clarion students?
Fear.
Okay, I can see you doing that. Why fear?
Everybody thinks they can write. Everybody thinks they can write. People who would not have the gall, temerity, the chutzpah to think they could be a brain surgeon or a biologist or even a good car mechanic without years of learning all think they could write. People come up to you at cocktail parties and say, yes, I've had this real interesting life, you know, I've had just a fascinating life, and I would write it, but I don't have the time, you know, but I could do it. But if, I'll let you write it. So you write it, and I'll split with you 50%. And I say, oh, that's great. I'll do 100% of the work, and you're going to split with me 50%. So there's a hell of an offer. It's like an epiphany. I then bite off their nose and send them to, to meet their maker. I see thousands of people who all think they can write because they wrote a letter home to mommy, or they wrote a laundry list once, or they wrote a bit of bad poetry, or they wrote a short story. Writing is a job, as I have said often enough to quote from Balzac, takes clean hands and composure. It is hard physical work. You have to sit there every day and do it. Now, I use a manual typewriter. I don't use one of these cockamamie word processors. You know, word processor like I don't know, a blend master or something. You know, you pour in verbs and they blend it, you know. Word processor. I have no use for that. I sit at a typewriter and I do the work there. And I feel the foot-pounds of energy going into it. I belong to my work. You can see the imprint of my hands on those keys. And I like being connected to my readers in that way. I like one-on-one. I don't want any mechanical crap in between us. And when I go to a workshop, I see people who are really writers, and I can spot them very quickly because I've been an editor. I see a lot of people who are dilettantes, a lot of people who want to be writers, but they don't want to write. They're the kind of people you always hear complaining about how hard writing is. Oh, it's hard, it's hard, it's hard. It's supposed to be hard, schmuck. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. It's like life. If life were easy, everybody'd be doing it.